Hi, and welcome to my Healthy Hormones Facebook Live. My name is Gabrielle Grandell. I am a National Board and Functional Medicine Certified Health Coach and Nutritionist, and I'm also a Certified LEAP Therapist. LEAP Therapist stands for Lifestyle Eating and Performance, which is centered around food sensitivity testing, and so I offer that as well. Tonight, I am here to talk to you about some simple tips that you can put into place to help yourself balance out your hormones. And I'm doing this because I just want to educate you that there are some simple things we can put in place that can really make some big differences. A lot of the people that I see, a lot of women that I see predominantly are struggling with hormone imbalances, and it may be PMS or PCOS, painful periods, it could be things like infertility or menopausal symptoms, endometriosis. And so I thought it would be important just to talk to you guys about some things that you can do to maybe prevent that from happening, or just help your hormones to get in balance so you don't have so many of those symptoms. Hey, Brenda, thanks for joining. Hi, Robert, thanks for being here. So what I thought I'd like to start with, and first of all, as well, I see people at Living Well Dallas. I'd like for you to know that, where you can find me. So if you'd like to work together in the future, you can give me a call at 972-930-0260. And I do 15-minute consultations for free to see if it's a good match and see if I can help you maybe identify where some of your symptoms and things are coming from, and then use a nutrition and lifestyle approach to help you out in that arena. So I think what I'd like to start with is maybe just some things not to do, and then we'll talk a little more about what we can do that's helpful. But the things that we don't want to do, I think, is important, because maybe people don't realize that they're doing things unknowingly or using products or things that could be causing problems. And so, hey, Mom, thanks for joining. So I thought I would just take some time and talk about some things you may not be aware that could be causing hormone imbalances. And that is anything that is going to act like estrogen in the body. So we know these things to be called xenoestrogens or xenobiotics or estrogen mimickers. They have lots of different names, but the bottom line is that they act like estrogen in the body, and that can lead to imbalances in hormones, of course, as well as estrogen dominance, where we have way too much estrogen relative to progesterone or testosterone. So, and there's a whole slew of symptoms that might come along with that. So things that are xenoestrogens or estrogen mimickers are plastics. So, think about plastic bottles and plastic containers and to-go-ware and all the different types of plastic that we might come in contact with. So if we can minimize our exposure to any of these things, this is going to help us to balance out our hormones. So think more along the lines of stainless steel bottles, glass containers. There's a great company called Stasher that has these reusable containers that you can use instead of using Ziploc baggies. So there's a lot of different ways that we can cut down our use of plastic. So I encourage you to look into that and be aware of that. Also, Teflon. So Teflon would be, you might find that in some of your cookware. And Teflon also releases a lot of chemicals when you're using that, when you're cooking with that into your food, and then you consume those. And so we want to avoid those things. We also want to think about factory farm animals. So if we are not eating organic, grass-fed, pasture-raised animals, the way they were designed to live their life, and we're eating factory farm protein or animal products, then they have lots and lots of different, unfortunately, a lot of hormones and things that they're consuming as well. And, you know, there was a study that showed that there was actually 20 different medicines and chemicals in a gallon of milk that wasn't organic. And this is just really disruptful for our hormones. So we want to avoid that as well, and really try and steer towards more organic, grass-fed, pasture-raised animal products if you do consume those. This would also count for dairy, right? So some people don't consume meat, but they do eat cheese and milk and things. So like I mentioned, in the milk gallon, there's tons of different chemicals there. And that's the same thing across the board for all dairy products. So try to do more organic if you are consuming those things. We also want to think about personal care products. And so, hi Atar, thanks for joining. And Mike, glad you guys are here. So we also want to think about personal care products, and because these personal care products we're putting on our skin oftentimes, right? And so our skin is soaking all of these things in, and unfortunately we don't regulate our personal care products like makeups and lotion and soap and shampoos and things like that, like they do in other countries. And so a lot of things go unchecked. And when we do look, we see that there are tons and tons of chemicals and estrogen mimickers and issues with those products. And so if we continue to use those, then we will a lot of times end up with hormone imbalances. And so switching to a green, non-toxic cleaning line and product makeups and lotions and things like that would be really helpful. And if you need some assistance with figuring out what that could be, I'm happy to help you with that. I have a lot of ideas and brands that I recommend and can speak to. Hi, Michael. Thanks for joining. So those are some things that we want to think about what not to do, right? And now let's talk a little about what we can do that can be helpful for us. So one of the things that I really want to stress is that the best scenario is to actually check your hormones and do some testing and figure out where your levels are and what you're dealing with right now. You know, all of these things that I'm suggesting tonight are all going to be beneficial, but we can get even more targeted with the approach if we know what your status is. And so at Living Well Dallas, I offer a few different kinds of hormone testing. And tonight we're talking primarily about sex hormones. We do look at thyroid hormone and insulin, which regulates blood sugar, and then also melatonin and cortisol, which are some other really important hormones. But in regards to the sex hormones, we have a couple of different tests that we offer. And if you're interested in that, I'm happy to talk to you more about that as well. So that's my first piece of advice, is kind of know where you are and know your levels. Secondly, we can think about what are some other nutritional and lifestyle, actions that we can put in place to help support good estrogen detox, because we don't want our estrogen to build up too high in the body because that causes lots of issues, and it also dysregulates our testosterone and our progesterone, which are very important as well. So we want to minimize our things that are going to build up and act like estrogen in the body. And then we want to support the metabolism of estrogen. And one of the ways that we get bad estrogens out of our body or get rid of a surplus of estrogen is through using the restroom and having a bowel movement. So we have to be pooping to be able to be getting rid of estrogen. So that's very important. So if you're one of those people that don't go to the bathroom on a daily basis, we need to have a conversation about what we can do about making that happen, because that's the way that we eliminate toxins. It's not just estrogen, it's other toxins too, in addition to sweating them out and those kinds of things. But that's very important. It will, build up if we're not able to eliminate it. So that's important. And then we also want to think about some foods that we can eat that will support healthy hormone balance. And the first thing that comes to mind, we've had some people join. Hi, Angie. Hi, Maggie. Thanks for being here. So one of the first things I think about is flax. And so flax is flax seed, and you can use that in an oil form, or you could do flax seeds, or you could do ground flax. And so there's several options there. And flax, not only does it have, plenty of omega-3 fats, which are very helpful for hormone metabolism, but it also has lignans, which have been shown to prevent breast cancer, and it helps drive the pathway towards a protective type of estrogen called 2-hydroxyestrogen. And not only that, it acts like a phytoestrogen. So earlier I was talking about what's called xenoestrogens and estrogen mimickers. And so phytoestrogens they take the place of estrogen on the receptor site of the cell, and they bind there so that xenoestrogens cannot bind, which is a good thing. Right? So because we don't want those xenoestrogens. So if we can have more phytoestrogens in the diet that play that role, oftentimes that's very supportive. If you were a person that was struggling with estrogen or hormone dominant cancers, I would like to take this conversation offline, and we could talk more about specifics for you. But, and of course, always consult your doctor. This is not medical advice, but for most people, that can be really helpful in terms of helping with producing good estrogen and preventing cancers. So think about flax, and make sure you buy it organic, because we want to avoid genetically modified crops, which I've talked about previously, and flax is one of those crops. So that's my advice with that, as well as buying flax oil in a glass bottle versus a plastic bottle. And the darker the bottle, the better, because it does go rancid. You don't want to heat that. Also, by the way, that's more for salad dressings and things of that nature. It is a problem if you heat it. So think about that, as well as getting ground flax. Because you're going to be able to break that down and utilize that better than just eating the seeds themselves. They tend to pass through a little easier. So think about having flax. Also, fermented foods. So fermented foods are things like sauerkraut and kimchi and kombucha to a lesser extent, miso, things of that nature. Pickles, they have fermented pickles out there. Lots of different options nowadays of fermented vegetables. And if we can introduce more good bacteria into our system, into our GI tract, then we can better set ourselves up to be able to digest and break down and then finally detox the estrogen that's in our system. So fermented foods are helpful because they have lots of bacteria, good bacteria that we're going to introduce, as well as fiber in the vegetables themselves that feed those bacteria so they can continue to thrive and grow. So that's important to introduce into your diet, and you could put that on salads. You could put that, just eat it on the side of whatever else you're eating, just a spoonful, or again, getting some of those pickles or something like that you can kind of snack on would be a good way to incorporate that. All right, so flax, fermented foods. Also think about cruciferous vegetables. So cruciferous vegetables are going to, again, really drive that protective estrogen pathway and keep the progesterone and estrogen in balance. And they're also have a lot of other host of benefits, but these would be things like broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, kale. You know, there's several different types of cruciferous veggies out there. So try and consume as many of them as you can, as you enjoy. Focus on the things that you like to start with, and then try to venture out and expand from there. And incorporating those on a daily basis is a really great idea. Whether you serve them, you know, as a side dish, you put them again in a salad or a smoothie, either one of those ways would work. But more of those, the better, generally speaking. And so think about that, as well as bone broth. So bone broth is very healing. The collagen that's in bone broth is particularly healing and helpful for balancing your hormones, as are sprouts like broccoli sprouts and clover sprouts. These are very nutrient dense foods that, again, help support healthy estrogen metabolism. And we can also think about things like herbs and spices. And so incorporating some of these things into your cooking or into your dishes that you're making is a really great idea. And things like thyme and rosemary have been shown to be very helpful, as well as sage. In fact, thyme and sage in Chinese medicine were used often to tonify and strengthen female organs. And we also have things like what's called Vitex, which is chasteberry, and that's a supplement that you could purchase, and it is working on helping you with building levels of progesterone, because oftentimes people have higher estrogen and not enough progesterone. And we also have an online store. If you're interested in purchasing any of these supplements, just send me a message or put your name or something down in the chat box, and I'm happy to give you the information and the link for our online dispensary. So we have Vitex. We have also things like adaptogenic herbs. So adaptogenic herbs are things that help you adapt to the situation. So they'll help calm you down if you're stressed. They help give you a little boost if you're kind of on the lower side. And so adaptogenic herbs can be really beneficial in balancing hormones and how that relates with stress. And so things like ashwagandha, holy basil, these are herbs that you can find in supplemental form and sometimes in tea form. Ginseng can sometimes be helpful for women. Maca is another adaptogen, and you can get that in a supplemental form, as I said, or you can also do a powder, maca root powder, and you can put that in any kind of liquid. Can be really, really supportive. Also, thinking about adaptogenic herbs, we want to think about medicinal mushrooms because they act in that same way. So things like reishi and cordyceps, you can get these in powder form or whole and cook them or eat them that way, but they're really easy in a powdered form that you could just add to your morning beverage or your smoothie, and that would be a good way to get those in. Again, a lot of other benefits that they offer, but they can be really helpful for hormone balance. Also, I think about essential oils. And so essential oils are plant medicine, right? And so again, the same things like thyme and rosemary can be very, very helpful. Also clary sage. Some of the companies even have their own blends that are helpful for hormones. We carry doTERRA at Living Well, and if you'd like to get connected with that, I can help you there too. But they have a blend, I believe it's called ClariCalm, that incorporates a lot of these nutrients and herbs to help you to balance your hormones, and you can just apply that topically. and also into the air, breathing it in the air can be really helpful too. And then another thing that we can do is make sure, I touched on this a little earlier with genetically modified foods and things, but one of the things that we can think about that also should be organic is, ladies, if you're using any feminine products like tampons or pads, because these are often made with cotton, right? And we know that so much of our crop in this country is genetically modified, at least 80%, if not more. And so we want to make sure that we're buying 100% organic feminine products, specifically tampons, but pads as well, because that's a huge mucous membrane that we are exposing this cotton to that's covered in glyphosate, which I talked about in my last video, which is a carcinogen and antibiotic, chelates minerals, and causes problems in the endocrine system. So it causes problems with our hormones. So we don't want to expose ourselves to that on a regular basis. And they do offer cotton products. One of the companies that's really great is called Cora, C-O-R-A, and you can find it at Target or online. And there's several other companies. Lola, I believe, is another one. FemCare, I think, was another one. But if you just look for organic tampons or feminine products, you can find some brands. Like I say, Cora is one that you can look for that's readily available. So that's also something to be mindful of. And then just taking care of yourself. We know that whenever we don't, deal with our stress, or we don't kind of process things that have been happening in our life, that our body holds those memories. And so releasing anger and releasing resentment and things of that nature can really get our hormones balanced out, where otherwise they may stay more stagnant. So try to get outside and take a few deep breaths, go on a walk, maybe take an Epsom salt bath, take an extra nap. Just take care of yourself, because it's really critical to keeping everything balanced. And I think I forgot to mention, but also healthy fats. So just in general, healthy fats are super important for hormones. All hormones actually start with cholesterol. A lot of people don't realize that, but if we don't have enough cholesterol in our body, then we can't even make our sex hormones. And so we need healthy fats like monounsaturated fats from avocados and olive oil and olives. We need our omega-3s from salmon, and probably taking a fish oil supplement, because a lot of people need to get their levels where they need to be. We want to think about medium chain triglycerides like coconut oil. All of these things play a big role in keeping your hormones balanced. And so make sure to incorporate those as well. Fat can be your friend, and we want to treat it as such. So I hope this has all been helpful for you. I'm going to just hang out for a second and see if anyone has any questions or if any feedback. If you do, please write it down in the chat box. And also, if you guys have any tips, or not any tips, but any topics that you want to make sure that get covered in the future, or things you want to learn more about, please let me know that as well. I like to bring a message that people want to learn about, and so if you're so inclined, you can share that with me. And otherwise, I'm glad that everyone could join tonight. I so appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to pop on here and be with me. If you would like to take this any further, or you have any questions about whether or not my services could benefit you or someone you know, you can find me at Living Well Dallas, and that's at 972-930-0260. I do free 15-minute consultations, and I'd love to hear from you and help you to live the best life that you deserve to live. Thanks everybody for being here tonight, and have a good evening.